Hello once again. So, this will be the last topic for the coverage of your third quarter exam. So, this lesson is about the study of culture, society, and politics. So, basically, we will learn the different disciplines of social sciences like archaeology, anthropology, sociology, political science, and other terms that are related to the study of culture, society, and politics. Please excuse the goats of the neighbor. So, the contents for this lesson first is the social, political, and cultural behavior and phenomena. We will talk about the socialization process, social, political, and cultural change, and the study of culture, society, and politics. So, first is the social, political, and cultural behavior and phenomena. So this is a scenario. Imagine that you are in this scenario. Imagine that you were chosen by your school to partake in a short international exchange program along with students from other Asian countries. So, exchange students. During the program, you notice that all participants express themselves differently. For example, the Thais put their hands together and bow their heads. Sawadika. The Koreans and Japanese give a bow, and the Singaporeans firmly shake hands. You soon realize that their actions are indicative of their cultural practices and social traditions in their respective countries. So, how would you, as a Filipino, greet other participants? Would there be similarities between your greetings and other participants? So, do we have a like a greeting to other people or to other nationalities? Do we don't have, or we don't usually bow, right? How do we express ourselves as Filipinos? Ang peace sign nga na. Or what else? So how do we portray ourselves as Filipinos in the midst of different nationalities? So the process of socialization. So the process of immersing oneself in a particular society and culture is called socialization. So how we interact with people in the society with different cultures, different upbringing, different environment where they grew up. So that's socialization. It is through socialization where individuals adapt all aspects of society and exchange local practices to one another. So how we went to school, how our behaviors were changed because we were influenced by our friends, our teachers, how we gained accent. Like me, no, makatawa si ate kay tagalaan ako no ko. Gana. So, socialization is important because it allows for a nation to continue or transmit its social, cultural, and political identity from one generation to another. Socialization is made possible through social interactions. Yes, because in interacting with other people, that's how we socialize. That's how we gain information and knowledge about different cultures, traditions, about other people's race or their nationality, them being them. We will be able to understand why they behave like that, why do they have certain gestures. So that's through socialization. So when two people interact with each other, maybe through words or actions, an exchange of culture occurs. Not just by simply nodding or making gestures, bisan gani eye to eye contact, you're able to share your culture, like 'di ba how we Filipino or us Filipinos, how we point something that is far with our simod, not nga na 'di ba? So gesture, how we pick up fallen objects with our foot, 'di ba? That's very Filipino, kanang magpungko ta, That's very Filipino. So, cultural, societal, and political identity. As nations develop and socialization begins, people develop identities that are influenced by their social interactions. So we will always adapt to our surroundings. We will always imitate or copy something nga nakita nato or na-experience nato, di ba? That's how we are shaped by our culture with our different social interactions. How we learn other people's culture through traveling, through interacting with other people. So while human beings have a genetic makeup that predetermines their characteristics, their social roles and activities are still greatly influenced by their environment and social relationships. So, ang nagdako sa Cebu, different from nagdako sa Davao, sa Bohol. Although we are the same Bisaya nga mga tao, we have different of upbringing manggod. So, cultural patterns and social influences affect decision making processes. As individuals become more immersed in a particular society, they begin to adapt more societal traits and share them to other individuals as well. So, by interacting with other people, we adapt behaviors, cultures, and by gaining those things, if kita na sad mo share or makig-talk to other people, we can share the things that we learned, 'di ba? Through social interaction or through socialization. So, the emergence of subcultures. Individual members of society are still differed by socio-demographic characteristics such as gender, age, ethnicity, or religion. Say, for example, an Aita from Zambales, whose primarily source of living is farming, is clearly and socio-demographically different from a Mangyan from Mindoro who does fishing to live. And it is said that Ilocanos are thrifty people, Ilonggos are sweet and soft-spoken, and Caviteños are brave. Nga, mga Buholano daw or mga Bisaya, isog. So the existence of these varied characteristics only emphasizes that within generally accepted norms, subcultures also exists and that these subcultures are influenced by a particular group's local group culture, traditions, and social interactions. So, di ba, lahi-lahi man tag gidak-an, lahi-lahi man tag environment. So, kato example, although we are the same mga Bisaya, Cebu, Bohol, Negros, Davao, and other Bisaya people out there, ma-distinguish jud bitaw nimo nga ay murag Cebuano lagi ni, Dabawenyo lagi ni, Boholano lagi ni. No, bisan pag the same tanga Bisaya, we have different subcultures because again, we have different upbringing, lahi tag environment, lahi ilang naandan compared sa naandan nato. Even gani inside Bohol, mailhan nimo ang Luon, ang taga-Hagna, ang taga-Inabanga, 'di ba? With the accent. Yes. So we have different subcultures. So this is C. Wright Mills. He was a famous American sociologist and professor who authored the book The Social Imagination. So in his writings, Mills talked about a sociological lens that is used by individuals to understand their own and others past in relation to their history and social structure. Ay, wait for a while. O, di ba sometimes, makaingon ta nga, siguro nga na iyang batasan kay na siguro na siya trauma when he or she was a child. Siguro bad iyang experience during childhood. Siguro naana siya accident sa una nga naka-cause nga na iyang behavior. So, that's a Charles Wright Mills book all about how us individuals and others past in relation to their history and social structure or giun sa pagdako is more influence sa atong mga experiences in the past. So this perspective gave sociologists a basis for examining social phenomena according to two components, individual and social interactions. Through this, they were able to observe behavior, culture, and attitudes that facilitate the formation of social, political, cultural identities. So our identity as individuals are heavily influenced by our behavior, our culture, our attitude. So, unsa tay tanaw sa uban, that's heavily influenced kung asa ta nagdako, kinsay nagpadako, unsay mga instances that shaped us to be like that person, or ngano mang namaot ang batasan, nga na, or again, our relation or our interaction in the society. So that's the social logical imagination by Charles Wright Mills. Next is social, political, and cultural change. So the only permanent thing in this world is change. Excuse me. Cultural change. So change occurs whenever developments and new discoveries take place. So when we learn new things, when we adapt new things, new language, new culture, new tradition, so diba? That's change. So culture, as dynamic as it can be, is both inherently prone and resistant to change. This would mean that some parts of culture may easily change while some do not. And that's true. Uh, how our way of dressing, like ato ang fashion, is influenced by other people's culture. And also, di ba, ma-change man na siya how we interact ato ang basta ato ang culture ma-change man na, especially if nay mo influence nato. And also, some culture may also do not change, especially if tawag na oy conservative, 'di ba? Like if you're not open to changes sa atong society or sa ato ang tagsa-tagsa ka mga panimalay, like 'di ba, some things never change, like kanang pag-amin nato sa katiguangan, 'di ba, wa man na ma-change, taas na nga panahon ng nilabay, pero it's still the same. We still respect our elders through pagmamano. Again, uh, cultural change has two sides lang. Dali ma-change o dili ma-change. So the resistance of culture change is dependent upon contact between societies, societal forces at work, and natural environment changes. Again, cultural change may depend upon your society, if kanang conservative mo, if open mo to changes, so depending on different factors. So, drivers of cultural change and resistance. So, within society, inventions and cultural laws drive cultural change. So, when we say inventions, or inventions occur when things are or concepts are put together and result into something that becomes useful. So, the invention of telescope, the telephone, and other instruments, scientific instruments that has become useful to human race. While cultural loss, it refers to the obliteration of old culture, specifically when new technologies and knowledge about certain cultural processes are formed. So as we learn new things, as we adapt to changes, 'di ba? Some of our culture pwedeng pwedeng mahanaw. as we grow older, as we become liberated, or mas maka-learn ta, mas ma-educate ta, some culture of certain ethnic groups may change. So, within the same society, habits and cultural traits integration facilitate resistance to culture change. So, when we talk about habits, these are prevailing dispositions that emphasize a person's character or behavior, kanang sigig balik-balik nimong buhaton, prevailing, and traits contribute to behavioral consistency over time and behavioral stability across situations. Example of cultural loss, di ay no. Some African ethnic groups, they are very strict with their females or sa ilang mga bae, and they do not believe that women should be satisfied. Dili daw dapat masatisfy ang women. Dapat ang male ra ang masatisfy. So, what they do is kuhaon nila ang labia sa bai. Basta na part sa kuan sa bai nga ilang kuhaon para dili maka-feel og satisfaction. And as we have become more educated, more kanang tawag niya unti-unti or kan siya ba na wa na siya nga culture as they become educated kay tiyabay tangtangan kag ngana nga part na para dili lang ka maka-feel og pleasure. So as people are educated now, more bitag naghinay-hinay na sa dagkawa na nga culture, which is very unfair sa parts sa mga girls. Traits ng imong mga kaugalian. Ito ay mga kasanayan at kaugalian. So, imong mga kasanayan, kanang gibalik-balik na buhat. Kaugalian, imong traits. Unsay imuhang batasan that is consistent over time. As you have grow older or as time progresses, unsay imuhang kaugalian. So, the process of cultural change. So, in some instances, culture change occurs when societies as a whole interact with one another. This may be through the process of diffusion, acculturation, and transculturation. By the way, we have like two views sa atong culture. Like, unsay tan-aw nato sa atong culture bitaw. When we say xenocentrism or we become xenocentric, ang xenocentrism nga concept, atong hunahuna, ang culture sa laing tao is dominant than our culture. Say for example, mas mutang kilik tag K-drama or K-pop nga culture, like Korean nga culture, compared sa ato ang Filipino culture. Excuse me, kay ang tan-aw kintay nato sa atong mga telenovelas or sa atong mga dramas kay Jejimon, ang kanang Cardo Dalisay, lahi ra Jejimon compared anang mga nakita nato sa K-dramas. So that's xenocentrism or we are becoming xenocentric. Tan-aw nato labaw ang culture sa uban. But ang iyang kabaliktaran, when we think that our culture is more dominant than others culture, tahay culture na to as Filipinos is better than that of the culture of the Africans. If tan-aw na to ato as ang culture ang labaw, that's called ethnocentrism. So we are becoming ethnocentric. Xenocentric ang culture sa other people ang labaw, ethnocentric ato ang culture ang labaw. So these are the processes for cultural change. First is diffusion. So this is the movement of one idea, belief, or value system from one culture to another. Traits may be adapted by the new culture, but meanings and connotations may differ from one society to another. So we may share our ideas, beliefs, value systems. Pwede siyang i-adapt sa uban, pwede nilang gamiton. But still, meanings of that certain traits is magdepende sa society nga ni gamit adto, or ang interpretation ba magdepende sa kung kinsa ang nigamit nga culture. Murag i-base pod nila ang pag-understand ana sa asa siya nga society nagdako. Another one is acculturation. So, acculturation, this is the large-scale diffusion of traits and culture that occurs over a long period of time. So, alien traits are usually adopted by less powerful societies because dominant societies have more economic and political power over them. Diffusion, but on a larger scale. Mas dako, mas katag siya compared sa diffusion. Mas kuan kanang mas dako, like say for example how we adapt to the life work balance nga culture. So og kita ng Filipinos mo adapt anang life work balance kinta nga culture, maglisod ta kay gamay man tag sweldo unsaon man pagka-balance sa life and work if di paigo imuhang sweldo para to live life, to enjoy life. So, just like diffusion, di ba? Pwede man nato i-apply kanang work-life balance nga culture sa atong Philippines or nato namo or sa working nga people, but nakadepende siya if kaya ba nimo or depende sa situation. So diffusion, larger than diffusion or larger scale for diffusion acculturation. And lastly, transculturation. This occurs when an individual relocates and adapts to cultural practices of the new environment. Operating at the micro level, this has less impact but could pose societal threats to cultural preservation when done at the macro level. So like kanang mga culture shocks nimo when you when you immigrate to other countries, or when you change your like imong gipuy-an, di ba? Naman siya na yung mga culture shocks, cultural changes nga lahi di ay sila compared nato whatsoever. When you transfer from one place to another, that's called transculturation. Ma-adapt nimo ang cultural practices of your new environment. Okay ra siya if individual lang or kanang sa imuha lang kaugalingon, pero if sa kadaghanan na bitaw i-apply nimo sa isa ka society, it is very dangerous, or sa ka country like ma-adapt sa inyong country na nga culture, it's very risky kay pwedeng ang imuhang own culture man ang mawa. So okay rag individual level lang, like madugangan gamay imuhang culture or imong mga nakasanayan at mga kaugalian, pero if i-apply nimo in a larger scale, it's risky kay possible nga mapulihan na imong culture. So social and political change. In sociology, social change refers to the alteration of mechanisms in social culture. This process is characterized by changes in social organizations, cultural symbols, patterns of behaviors, and value systems. So, changes sa society, social change sa behavior, sa values, sa cultural symbols, like kita karon how we adapt now to the kanang beauty, like kanang bitang murag standard grown, like we are open now to plastic surgeries, dili na nga na para sa una nga i-condemn ka og magparitoki ka, mura bitag na change sad ang ato ang behavior, atong value systems, because marabag as time has gone by, na change rasad ang ato ang perspective or atong tan-aw sa plastic surgeries. Perhaps one of the most well-known and widely used is the structure functionalist model that emphasized the importance of various societal structures in developing and driving change at both the individual and societal levels. So, societal structures like ang economy, ang government, ang school or education. Say for example, those three have different functions sa atong society. Nga magtinabangay na silang tulo to shape individuals or ang society as a whole. And sa structure functionalist, as long as magamit ka or magamit imuhang structure, societal structure, mo exist ka. But if the time comes nga wala gamit, ang education dili na siya useful kay puros na bright ang mga tao, di na kinahanglan nilang mo eskwela, mawa siya kadugayan. Nga na ang structural or structure functionalist na model. Like, we have different functions or roles and we work together for our society, but if we don't function anymore, mawala rasad ta. So, societal and political change are closely related. Changes in political structure occur when changes in society happen and vice versa. Political and social changes are interconnected concepts. So, changes in politics, however, occur most when there is a play against power and when there is a revolution of rising expectations from the government, such as radical revolution, structural revision, change of leaders, and change in policies. And I guess this political change now is marbitaw kuan tunog kayo karon sa Philippines. Like basin 3 months, 5 months from now, daghan pwede mahitabo. Especially when we talk about the Dutertes and the Marcoses or the Marcos nga dynasties, lisod. Basin pila ka buwan after anang ilahang conflict karon, there could be changes in our government. So, kana play against power and revolution of rising expectations as people have become aware, become educated of certain characteristics or kanang dapat unsa bitaw dapat ang usa ka leader. Possible that there will be revisions, change of leaders, policies, ma-change or ma-amend ang Philippine Constitution. It is very possible. So this is Mahatma Gandhi. He is Indian. So Mahatma Gandhi was an Indian activist, lawyer, politician, and writer who led the nationalist movement against the British rule in his country. So Gandhi, even up today, or up to this day, is internationally known as the purveyor of non-violent protest satyagraha in achieving social and political change. So, Gandhi took part in 3 major campaigns against the British people. He stood as an advocate and mediator, which led the British to label him as utopian visionary. Diba, utopia is like a place of heaven. No fear, no sufferings. Utopia. So many of his writings gained him the admiration of Indians from different walks of life. He was considered as the catalyst in ending colonial rule in India and in providing the country with a type of political and social reform that was based on peace and spirituality, not like the other revolutions which are bloody. So si Gandhi, peace iya ha. He fought for his country through peace and spirituality. Now, the study of culture, society, and politics. So, mauna ni ang different disciplines of social sciences. So, museums are significant places because they tell political, cultural, and social history of a particular group or nation. They also feature material cultures that signify years of academic hard work and extensive field work. Academians and other professionals take charge of improving museums. These hard workers have vast backgrounds on social, political, and cultural characteristics that encompass their field of interest. As such, knowledge is continuously built and shared upon to museum goers. In your perspective, how does knowledge about society, culture, and politics help in the development of academic research endeavors? So, how we learn about our society, our culture, 'di ba? Our own culture as Filipinos. Yan sa man nato pag-learn nga we are famous di ay for our fiestas, that we have this pagmamano, our respect toward elders, how we call them ati kuya, nanay tatay, even though we're not related, how we use po and opo, giyon sa man nato pagkahibaw, giyon sa man nato pag-gather nga we have that culture. Diba? That is because of the people that study Filipino culture. Nga gistudihan nila nga we have our national costumes di ay, we have the same language, or we are able to understand one language which is Filipino. So 'di ba, lahat ng iyan ay resulta ng pag-aaral. So based on researches, findings, studies. So just like things that we can find in museums, naman siya na meaning, wala man na gibutang ng megalodon ana nga ngipon just because. Diba, there's reason, there's history behind that culture, or reason why that certain thing is placed there. So giunsa man na pag-come up or pag-abot ana nga butang, or giunsa na to na pagkahibaw. So now this is the study of culture, society, and politics. So first, let's talk about anthropology or anthropologist. So anthropology is the study of anthropology aims to scientifically examine the behavior, origin, social, physical, and cultural development of humans. Giunsa pagpamuyo sa mga Australopithecans sa una, nganong ang mga Homo habilis were called as the able man, nganong ang paggamit nila og stone tools kay naka-learn ta nga that's how they live, nganong ngadto ilahang way of living ngadto nga time. Or other ong mga Machu ang naa sa Peru or Machu Picchu Peru, katong mga Incas, nganong nga na ilang life, nganong ngadto ilang culture, nganong ni believe sila og many gods. So that's anthropology, not just the behavior, but also the origin, the social, physical, and cultural development of humans. So, like the holistic aspect of man, giunsa niya pag-develop. And under this is archaeology. So, when we talk about archaeology, mao ni sila ng kanang mga tao nga magdig og excavations, kay nangita sa Ark ni Noah, nangita sa kanang mga Great Pyramids. So, nga na ang archaeology, more on things sila or kanabitang excavations. Sa anthropology, i-study tanang aspect sa human life. So, anthropologists seek to determine and predict human origin and behavior by studying archaeological excavations or artifacts, and by observing various living cultures worldwide. So dili lang kay ang mga namatay na or nawala ng race or kanang what do you call this group of people, culture sa people, but pwede sad silang mag-ethnographic study kanang living pa nga mga culture, mo immerse sila adto para ma-understand ilang behavior, ilang life. So that's it. So we have here subdisciplines of anthropology. So the science of anthropology peaked during the late 19th century When the first generation of anthropologists relied on artifactual evidences, previous writings, and travel reports to conduct archaeological activities and discover remnants of the past. From there, the discipline continued to grow and several subdisciplines began to flourish. First, we have physical anthropology. So, area of focus, primatology. So, katong primates, like how Charles Darwin studied about the evolution of man, paleoanthropology, forensic anthropology, and human variation or these Darwinian theories. So all about the physical like characteristics of man. Yun sa pagbuhi sa tao so nabasa all about man kanang mag-study og kanang mga remnants, mga bones, kanang mga fossils, mga artifacts, physical anthropology. Kanang-tanang tangible, makit-an, mga bukog, mga treasures. So, prominent figures are famous anthropologists Jane Goodall, Raymond Dart, and Charles Darwin. Next one is archaeology, prehistoric archaeology, and historic archaeology. Ang physical anthropology di ay pwede sa existing like karon gistudihan mag-study ka or katong immerse ka ay kanang living ang imuhang studyhan like tahay ka ng mga kanang cannibalism, di ba? Naman to yung nisikat sa TikTok ana nga anthropologist nga nag-study sa physical unsay kinabuhi nila ngano nga na ilahang life like that. Archaeology more on past unsay mga nahitabo sa una like kanang digging, excavations, prehistoric and historic mag tawagan na oy mag-decode og mga writing sa una like i-decode nila unsay pasabot sa hieroglyphics, sa cuneiform, and other writings, ancient writings, mo na ilang study, more on digging, past, previous. And when we talk about cultural anthropology, ethnology, linguistic anthropology, it talks about language, how we learn language, culture, kanang interaction na sa tao. Famous figures first for archaeology we have Kathleen Kenyon and Howard Carter, and for cultural anthropology we have Franz Boas and Noam Chomsky. So Noam Chomsky is considered man siguro siya as the father of linguistics, how language is learned ana. So that is anthropology. Next we have sociology. So when we talk about sociology, it is a systematic study of social interaction and society. So sociologists study all aspects of society from individuals up to social institutions. So sociologists believe that understanding micro and macro level phenomenon requires an understanding of the whole social system that are primarily influenced by interacting social institutions. So these are examples of social institutions. Nakalimot ko sa education, I mean sa religion kaniya. So we have education, religion, economy, family, which is a basic unit of society, and the government. So all about these social institutions, studihan na sa mga sociologists how different social institutions influence each other or giunsa pag kana affect or lagi influence yana. So we have here three main paradigms in sociology, or these are like models. So the study of sociology could be separated into three paradigms: structural functionalism, conflict perspective, and symbolic interactionism. So we have here micro and macro levels of analysis. Like if micro individual levels lang, like kara tao. If macro level, society as a whole. Made both macro and micro. Ano? So structural functionalism, again, this talks about the functions of the different social institutions. So each part of society has a special function or contribution to enable societal unity or equilibrium. So if ni function pa si religion, si government, si uh, education, si family, o unsa pa ng other societal institutions, of if they still function, usar ilang goal like societal unity or equilibrium. And if one of those societal institutions fail to do their part or mawala na ilahang gamit, mawala rasad na sila sa society. Nga na ang structural functionalism. As long as mo function, mo exist na. But if di na siya mo function, mo na, mahanaw na or mawala na. Next is conflict perspective. So ang main murag proponent ani or kanabit ang tao nga nag-study about this is Karl Marx. Conflict. Social inequality is always occurring in society. So this enables social differences and distribution of powers. So matod pa sa among instructor pag college, dili pwede nga dato tanan walay pobre kay kinsa may mobuhat sa mga kanang blue collar jobs if walay ganahan mo panday, walay ganahan mamason, walay ganahan mahimong laborer, di sa pang degrade. Pero nga na ang conflict perspective nga both sides or both class, ang mga high class and naa sa middle and low class, they have different functions. So that's why we have social differences kay para ma-distribute sad ang power. Kay mag-unsa naman ta og puros na ta mga gamhanan, puros na ta mga dato. Di ba walay balance sa society. So we should always strike a balance. Manang naay inequality. So although lain siya paminawon, pero naa yung social inequality. Kay again, kisa may mabuhat og kanang mga blue collar jobs og kita ra tanan ganahan mag white collar jobs. Kinsa na may magtanom og food para nato. Unsa na may kanon nato og ganahan tang madoktor tanan. O ganahan tang ma-engineer tanan. Unsa may kanon nato mukaon tag siminto. So that's according to conflict perspective. And lastly, we have symbolic interactionism. So importance is placed upon one-on-one interaction and communicative exchanges with others. So how we socialize, katong process sa socialization or social interaction, how we interact with other people, katong ma-change ta. We can adopt other people's or other persons' behaviors just by interacting or socializing, communicating with them. So those are the three paradigms of sociology: symbolic interactionism, conflict perspective, and structural functionalism. And I guess this is the last topic, which is all about political science. This is more on crimes or kanang pamamalakad governance. So while political science is closely related to other social science disciplines, especially sociology, its main tenets and arguments focus on the use and distribution of power. Katong pag-govern mo og usa ka group of people or usa ka country. As such, political science could be defined as a systematic and empirical study of governance that examines societal, cultural, and behavioral factors in the operation of government and politics. So, as nakapangutan ako last time, unsa may mahitabo if walay politics, if we don't have certain rules that govern us. Di ba day masumbagan na nako ang gusto nako sumbagon kay wala may rules. So that's why political science is very important. So we have here different subfields of political science. Because political science is a broad field, it has generated a number of subfields throughout the years. So we have here um, subfields of political science: domestic politics, domestic within, so public opinion, election, public governance, national and local government units within our country, if domestic. Comparative politics is politics between countries, similarities and differences between political models. So we compare like politics here in the Philippines compared to politics in North Korea, South Korea, and other neighboring countries or Asian countries. You compare. That's comparative economics. Ay, economics. Comparative politics. Tamang go po yung comparative economics. Next one is international relations. Political relationships and activities between countries, including causes of war and international economic policies, like how we maintain diplomacy, like atong international relations with other people. Mabitaw to si BBM kay mura siyag magig-iring-iring ni kanang Donald Trump nga na, and Duterte on the other hand during his reign kay, di ba, he cut off ties with the Americas nga ni kuan siya, ni iring-iring siya ni China o ni Russia. Magiyatong ni kuan siya ba, ni neutral nga na ang patakaran or how international relations works imong diplomacy, like how's the relationship between presidents and prime ministers, like that. Next one is political theory, classic and contemporary theoretical models on philosophy and politics, like unsa nga mga theories ang gigamit sa una, like how we apply that today, like katong sa mga panahon nila Aristotle, nila kinsa pa man, nila Alexander the Great, nila ni Mustafa Kemal and other famous leaders way before, like giunsa nila pag-study sa concept of like the social contract theory, how the human rights and other things, theories nga i-apply na to karon from the past nga apply na to sa present. Next one is public administration. So the role of bureaucracy, application of political science in daily living and civil service. Like, kung saan nimo pag-manage or kung saan ba kaniyong pagpamalakad sa group of people, sa like kanang company, kung saan man na nimo pag-manage. Marag ngana more on si public administration. Next one is public law, the constitution, legal rights, the justice system, and civil rights of people, how we are protected by our law, and how are we judged, or saan bitaw ta pag ruling, or saan pag kanang ang tawag interpret sa atong mga criminal cases if using public law. And lastly, we have public policy. So passage and implementation of all government mandated policies. So those are the different subfields of political science. Now the structuralist and culturalist perspectives. So according to supporters of structuralism, the world should be organized to influence politics, and that power, social institutions, and social interests should be the primary focus of all subfields of political science. On the other hand, supporters of the culturalist view call for a more subjective way, political analysis, that which uses psychology, values, and opinions to determine political conflicts and challenges. So si structuralism, ug unsay naara sa society, like giunsa pag-distribute sa power sa katong different social institutions, and social interest mao dapat ang main goal or ang focus, whereas the culturalist dapat daw i-interpret nato ang political analysis or ang pag-view nato sa politics in a subjective, meaning ato ang pagsabot dili siya objective, like how our psychology, our views and values, opinions as individuals and as a society could trigger or kanang makadetermine siya og political conflict, challenges ngano mang hantod karon nagyapoy panaglalis anang sa Israel, the Palestine or Palestine nga na. We should understand those things based on a culturalist view. Contemporary scholars, however, believe that structuralist and culturalist perspective are intertwined and could provide a holistic view of politics when strewn together. So, mas effective if i-combine nato duha, which makes sense. Kay lain man sad og ang ipasulabi ra nato is atong views, atong opinions. How about the kanang tawagan na? How about the si tawagan na ni? What should be ba kanang o imong sa power, sa social institutions? Dili lang kay more on beliefs, opinions. So dapat intertwined silang duha. Nawa iyahang picture. Murag bakit parang kasalanan ko? Bakit ako? Char. So this is Marvis Harris. So he is a contemporary cultural anthropologist who pioneered the concept of cultural materialism in the 1960s. His theory was greatly inspired from the views of Karl Marx and Thomas Malthus. So Karl Marx iyahatong conflict theory. Thomas Malthus is theory on population, such as weather, geography, and the like, influence the development of culture. Supporters of Harris stated that society develops on a trial and error basis. They believe that social factors that are impertinent or dysfunctional would disappear from a society of a specific period in time. So this is just like the structural functionalism. Nga, as long as you're useful, as long as you still function, dili ka mawa. But when dysfunctional, they have a tendency to disappear from society. So this theory has garnered support from other cultural anthropologists, and it has also been used to analyze macro level social cases, such as the religious significance of animals in India. So katong for those who practice Hinduism, so mao ni religious significance of animals in India. Why they respect animals so much. Nga murag crime if makapatay kag animal. So that would be all. That's all about the study of culture, society, and politics. And see you when I see you, or see you on the next one. If we still have bad weather, hopefully, no more suspension of classes. Adios.